Sports. We are the Fourth. We are the Fourth.
Last night, the Rays spotted the O's a 6-run lead after the first 2 innings, then mounted a furious rally, cutting the deficit to only 1, but falling short as Zach Britton slammed the door in the 9th inning for a 6-5 Baltimore win. Tonight, right-hander Jake Odorizzi makes his 2015 debut, looking to lead the Rays to their first win of the season. Welcome to the Wednesday Night Showdown, presented by your local Tampa Bay area Mazda dealers. Tonight, the Rays and the Baltimore Orioles wrap up their 3-game series to open the 2015 season. Wrap-up game of the short homestand for the Rays as well. Hi again, everyone. With Brian Anderson, I'm Dwayne Stats. Great to have you aboard. Rays have dropped the first 2 games of the series, 4th time in franchise history that they have lost the first 2 games. They're going to try to turn that around tonight. And BA, they'll send the 25-year-old right-hander Jake Odorizzi to the hill, trying to accomplish exactly that.
Well, Jake Odorizzi's coming off his first full season in the big leagues, and overall, it was a very solid season. As you can see the numbers right there. Better than that, though, is I think that Jake Odorizzi established a pitch pattern that can be a consistent winner at the major league level. Primarily, I'm talking about that elevated fastball to go along with that split changeup that we just saw right there. Those 2 pitches play off each other very, very well, and we'll see if he can ride that combo to a victory tonight for the Rays.
You could see Odorizzi through his rookie season last year gain confidence as the season progressed. He finished with 174 strikeouts, leading Major League rookie pitchers in that department. And tonight, he'll go after the Baltimore Orioles. Kevin Kiermaier off to a good start at the plate for the Rays. 3 extra base hits. He's got a double, a triple, and a home run. Todd Callis will look at the young center fielder and his bat when we return.
Bench coach getting ready for this game as the Rays look to salvage one in this 3-game series against the Baltimore Orioles. Funny thing happened last night. Not funny to James Loney, but Kevin Kiermaier not in the original lineup. Then after batting practice due to the Loney injury, Kiermaier put into the lineup, and he would produce with a triple and also a home run. Kevin Kiermaier didn't even know he was going to be in this game. Had pretty good numbers against Wei-Yin Chen coming in, but Kevin Cash wanted to get more righties in the lineup, and then Kiermaier comes right in there and hits that ball down the right field line. Ends up with a double on opening day. Then yesterday, opposite field against Chen, lefty on lefty. That was his third hit against Chen of his career, and then later in the game against the hard-throwing right-hander Kevin Gausman. Kiermaier said that's the hardest hit ball he's ever had to center field. He hit a bomb to center. The quality of his at-bats early in the season have been strong. Here's Kevin.
Yeah, I'm just, I feel locked in at the plate right now, and, you know, anytime you can make that contribution to the team and go up there feeling locked in, that gives your team a better chance of winning. So that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to change anything up or anything like that right now. I just want to stay simple at the plate and try to get some good results out of it.
Kiermaier moves up to the number 6 spot in the Rays lineup, and there are the guys who will be in the booth all night long. Brian Anderson, Dwayne Stats getting ready for the website Wednesday debut of the 2015 season. If you have a question for the announcers, send them. Emily Austin will be gathering your questions, and she will ask Dwayne and BA their thoughts. Tweet your questions at Sun Sports Rays with the hashtag AskRays, or email your questions to sunsportsrays@gmail.com. Good times ahead on this website Wednesday as we get you ready for baseball. Kevin Kiermaier and the Rays taking on the Baltimore Orioles, and Steve Pearce first pitch in 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Enjoy all the action with Wei-Yin Chen against Jake Odorizzi next on Sun Sports.
Jake Odorizzi heads to the mound as the Rays and Kevin Cash are in pursuit of their first victory of the year. For Kevin Cash, looking for his first managerial win. And the Rays trying to close out the series on the winning side of the ledger. Starting lineup tonight for Baltimore, presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Alejandro Diaz leads it off, followed by Steve Pearce, the DH. Then Travis Snyder and Adam Jones. Chris Davis is at first. Manny Machado hits sixth. Flaherty, LaVarn Way, and Scope rounding out Buck Showalter's lineup. And Jake Odorizzi all set. First pitch of this game is a strike call. We are underway. That first pitch, a fastball, presented by Pinch a Penny. One and one. Diaz had a very productive game one of this series and the season, and opened last night's game with a base hit. Eventually scored.
Let's take a quick peek at the Rays defense as it lines up tonight behind Jake Odorizzi in the outfield left to right. Desmond Jennings, Kevin Kiermaier, and Steven Souza Jr. across the infield third to first. Longoria, Cabrera, Forsythe, and Dykstra. Rene Rivera will be behind the plate.
Cut to miss. Odorizzi takes care of Diaz on the off-speed pitch. Strikeout number one on the night. James Loney placed on the disabled list with the strain in the right oblique area. They're hopeful it'll be only 2 weeks. He's on the 15-day DL. Alan Dykstra has been summoned from Durham. He'll be in the Rays lineup tonight. Strike one to Steve Pearce.
Now, you don't want to mess around with an oblique, and so James Loney going to rest that here early in the season. And Alan Dykstra, 37 home runs the last 2 years between AA and AAA. So this is a guy that brings a certain amount of pop to this lineup, and the Rays hoping that he can start this season off quickly.
Yeah, the Rays are hopeful. They look at it this way, that they perhaps caught that oblique early. He had more or less a twinge in there. And so they're hoping that it will take only 2 weeks. Right side, that's Souza Jr. Full head of steam. Foul ball, and he makes the catch. A sliding catch as he approached the bullpen mound down there. Boy, you don't want to miss a chance to retire Pearce.
Not at all. And this ball skied down the line, headed towards the Rays bullpen, and Souza tracking it. And then right there, a little bit right at the end, you wonder if he lost it for a split second, but then is able to reach out as he's sliding and make a nifty little catch. Still getting used to the Tropicana Field dome.
Well, we saw a little hesitancy out there in game one. A little better, it appeared, last night. But until you've been out there a while, there may be moments like that.
We see visitors victimized all of the time. That guys that just aren't used to it, rookies coming in from interleague play. So it'll take a little time, but you better believe he's out there working on it during batting practice, trying to get as comfortable as he can early on.
There's a fastball from Odorizzi down 2-0. Got the strike there, and that was up around 93. He's a little bigger this year, Odorizzi, a little stronger. Well, and right back with that one. How about that? A fastball up and then right back with that change.
That's the combo. You were talking about it in the open. That elevated fastball, the split changeup that he learned from Alex Cobb and incorporated into his game last year. And he's shown that he is not afraid to use it. I mean, his changeup percentage last year was 8th most in the league.
And right back to get him on strikes. So a good start for the Rays and Odorizzi. A couple of changeups takes care of Snyder. Rays are coming in to hit. Lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. David DeJesus will DH. Steven Souza Jr. in that number 2 spot in front of Asdrubal Cabrera. Evan Longoria and then Desmond Jennings. Kevin Kiermaier hits 6th in front of Logan Forsythe. Alan Dykstra occupies the 8th spot in front of the catcher Rene Rivera.
Taking the mound tonight for the Baltimore Orioles, right-hander Miguel Gonzalez. See the numbers from last year, limited to just 26 starts, missed a few, had a strained, dare I say it, right oblique. Missed some time in June, and that's why you see the start's not up there in the 30s.
Yeah, in his case, actually, in regard to the Rays first baseman, James Loney, he had that oblique, tough for a pitcher, of course, tough for a hitter, and he only missed about 2 weeks. So maybe the Rays are spot on when they think trip to the 15-day DL, that'll be it.
Yeah, you want that low grade strain, because that can be troublesome. You start thinking about obliques and hamstrings. They linger if you don't take care of them.
DeJesus down in the count, 0-2.
I'll tell you, it seems more and more frequent in the last 5-10 years you hear about obliques. You used to never hear about that injury. They're becoming much more prevalent, it seems, recently. Unless they just changed the name. Side strain.
Yeah, my side hurts.
Yeah, right.
It went from that to various grades of oblique injuries.
They get all fancy, but oblique.
That would be a very interesting topic. We're going to have to get Ron Porterfield and his staff, talk to them about that.
Yeah, I mean, really.
You know, these guys are, without question, more finely tuned when it comes to conditioning than ever in the history of the game. Well, that pitch in on DeJesus. He fights off the fastball and fouls it away. There's Ron Porterfield. Boy, he's been busy.
Oh, boy, has he ever.
You've never seen anything like this. All your starting rotation, your closer, now your first baseman. Enough. DeJesus battling Gonzalez. He's had a half dozen official at-bats against him in his career, 2 out of 6 against the 30-year-old right-hander. So the count goes full. You know, the Orioles, the last couple of years, and I think especially since Showalter's been there, they've done a great job of what really in some cases the Rays have done. You know, the Rays would get a guy, put him in the bullpen, somehow rehab his effectiveness. They'd pick up a couple other players and maybe not of great renown somewhere else, and they would contribute in significant ways to the Rays. And the Orioles have done this all over the place. Pierce is a great example of that, and so is Gonzalez. Miguel Gonzalez is a guy who really could have been had by a lot of teams, and he has slipped right into their rotation. DeJesus fouls this one up the right side and breaks his bat.
But you know, you have to have an eye for talent. Be good at talent evaluation, but then you've got to be able to mold that talent, to teach that talent, to allow that talent to become, to be in an environment. How often do you hear about the Rays talking about how they have created an environment where guys can come in and succeed? Baltimore's done the same thing.
Yeah, they've added pieces around the core, and they've really turned out to contribute in big ways. High popper, shallow right. Snyder's coming in. He's got the angle, and he makes the catch. So a prolonged at bat right there of 10 pitches to finally get DeJesus.
Let's take a quick look at that Baltimore defense in the outfield, left to right. De Aza, Jones, and Snyder across the infield, third to first. We have Machado, Flaherty, Scope, and Davis. Ryan Lavarnway will get the call behind the plate. And Dwayne, that's coming into this game. That was something that I know that we had our eye on. The quality of at-bats that the Rays had, albeit a loss, but quality at-bat after quality at-bat all game long. Would that roll over and continue into tonight? Because Miguel Gonzalez is the type of guy that you're going to be able to battle. He's not going to blow you away.
Steven Souza Jr. takes a strike. Here's David DeJesus on this club, and now because of injury he's right there. All spring the word was, well, he really doesn't have a place on this team. He's got a contract. They're going to have to keep him. They'd like to trade him if they could. All of that. He didn't let any of that bother him. And as soon as he was called upon, he stepped right up and has given this team quality at bats in that spot. And there's something to be said for that.
Well, I think it starts with his demeanor when he comes to the ballpark. Or, actually, knowing David, it's not even when he comes to the ballpark, it's when he gets out of bed.
Yeah.
This guy is one of the most upbeat human beings you will ever come across. And so nothing is going to get him down. All that scuttlebutt during spring training didn't let it bother him. He's going out playing the game that he loves and having fun.
Liner into center, going to fall for a base hit. Souza Jr. has a base hit, and off the fastball. First hit of this ball game.
Oh, nice job by Steven Souza staying right up the middle. This ball trying to come in. It stays middle of the plate, somewhat down, head down, and from whence it came.
Pretty good approach right there. And he'll tell you that he's a hitter before he's a slugger. He doesn't even think about the slugging part. He wants to be a good hitter. And that's a great sign, because that's the emphasis for him in his approach.
If his approach is solid, the power numbers will come because of his size and strength. 6'4", 225. The ball's going to jump if he makes contact with it solidly. And so he doesn't have to worry about going up there and swinging for home runs. Just keep a good approach. And for him, it's he's worked on shortening his swing. And when he stays short, quick to the baseball, he's going to be very good.
There's Asdrubal Cabrera. Foul the other way for a strikeout. Of play it goes. Cabrera, after picking up a hit in Monday's game, a double in his last at bat, was 0 for 4 last night. Souza over at first base can also run. And Gonzalez is a guy who does give up a few steals.
Opposing base runners 12 out of 14 against Gonzalez. Souza 26 out of 33 in AAA last year.
Over there, Gonzalez mindful of Souza's presence. Caleb Joseph, who had the catch when Wieters went down, and catching because Wieters is on the DL now, he did throw out over 38% of base runners trying to swipe a base with him back there. Now 2-1.
And that's why this matchup has become even a little bit more fun to watch, because you've got Lavarnway back there tonight. So Miguel Gonzalez doesn't have Caleb Joseph to lean on, or Matt Wieters for that matter, who hasn't been back behind the plate consistently in a long time.
Yeah, you're right about that. Lavarnway with just a handful of games in the big leagues. We saw him in a couple of games with Boston. Now it's 3-1. Ryan Lavarnway with Wieters on the DL. And no pitch there, time granted by Paul Nart. So you would expect with this combination, with Lavarnway behind the plate and Gonzalez, the Rays get an opportunity. They may test the Orioles' ability to throw out runners. Runner goes, and the pitch is foul. A hot shot down near the bullpen.
And a 3-1 count, too. You trust as Drupal Cabrera to put the bat on the ball, and that's why you'll send Souza there. Put a good pass on it, just hit it foul. But I think that's something that you're going to see really all season long. The Rays, the last in the American League last year in runs scored. And so they're going to be looking to do anything to jumpstart that offense. And anytime they get an opportunity to maybe run a little bit, hit and run, put down a bunt, anything they can, they will try.
Runner goes in the right field through the shift. Souza will go to third. They'll hold him there. And the Rays threatened in the first inning. Men on the corners.
Well, 3 hitters so far for the Rays in this ball game, and you've seen 3 good at-bats, culminating in this right here, a breaking ball that as Drupal Cabrera stays on and is able to get the barrel to it, hit it hard, and beat the shift. Not easy to do, but he squeezed it through.
So an opportunity to grab the lead. Evan Longoria. Evan with a career home run against Gonzalez. It is low, blocked by LaVarnway.
Evan Longoria right now, especially now getting ahead in the count 1-0, is going to be looking for something where he can get some extension, a ball that's elevated, hopefully, get it out to the outfield. Something that he can drive.
Takes the count to 1-1.
Miguel Gonzalez, conversely, looking to drive something down into the zone, whether it be the fastball, the changeup, or the breaking ball, and he wants something on the ground to his infielders.
Nice take away. Slider wide, 2-1. Three balls and a strike.
Well, now if you're Evan Longoria, you can eliminate pitches. Pick out what you see well off Gonzalez, what you like. Pick a pitch, pick a spot, and sit on it.
It's foul back. Cabrera on the move off first there. And Gonzalez not giving in.
No, but making a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, where a hitter, you think, Evan Longoria is looking for a 3-1 heater. He got a slider, but it was flat and it was up out over the plate. Those are the kind of sliders that very rarely do they go well for the pitcher. And Evan just able to foul it off. I guarantee he'd like to see that again.
Well, DeJesus had a 10-pitch at bat. The Rays have worked the count well here in the first inning against Gonzalez. And the pitch fouled back. The Rays with their 4th hitter up in this inning, and 3 of those 4 hitters have worked full counts.
Picking right up where they left off last night. That seemed to be the theme. A ton of full counts in the ball game last night as the Rays were trying to claw their way back into it.
You know, this is only the 3rd game of the year, but to see them disciplined the way they were last night, playing catch up and putting one good at bat after another, those are great signs that we didn't see a lot of that last year up and down through the lineup. That's going to be a foul ball. And I think that's what the Rays, when you talk to the Rays, their front office, and Kevin Cash, Derek Shelton, they talk about the quality of this lineup. You know, they may not break down many fences, and they're not going to lead the league in home runs or runs scored, but they talk about not being as many soft spots in the lineup. And I think that's one of the reasons. They have some hitters here capable of running a good at bat against almost any pitcher out there.
That's how you piece together innings.
Now back to third after that fake on the pickoff attempt, and Souza's back.
Now trying to catch the young Steven Souza Jr. off at third. Miguel Gonzalez really selling this fake too. That was a nice sell job, and Souza able to get back to the bag. That's the kind of play that you would work on in spring training, and if you're gonna, kind of half throw it over towards first base, it's not going to work. You've got to really convince that runner on third that you're going to let it go.
Runner breaks. The pitch is ball 4, and the bases are going to be loaded. A walk to Longoria. So they're loaded for Desmond Jennings, who has a history of success. 6 hits off this guy, 4 of them home runs.
Couldn't have picked a better guy to come up in this situation. The mistakes that Miguel Gonzalez have made against Desmond Jennings, he has paid for dearly. And Desmond with a chance here to put the Rays up.
He throws a breaking ball in there for a first pitch strike. This next pitch will be the 30th pitch of the first inning here for Gonzalez. Stopped by LeVarn Way. Souza Jr. the runner at third. Cabrera at second. Over at first, Longoria. 2 singles and a walk to load the bases. Take 2-1.
Gonzalez finding himself in trouble here. He's aware of the success that Desmond Jennings has had off of him concerning the long ball and trying to make the perfect pitch right now, falling behind.
Ground ball, shortstop. Out at second and safe at first. The run scores. Well, that was close at first base.
Yeah, Buck may want to take a look at this one. This is an awfully close play at first base. Desmond called safe. Here's the turn. Boy, that is awfully close. Scope really jumped into that throw. Ooh, they may have gotten him.
Well, right now the Rays have a run. And Buck Showalter had come out just a step out of the dugout, made a hand signal, and now they've decided that they want to challenge this call.
Well, you know what? This would keep a run off the board. You understand the challenge, how close it was. The one thing that Desmond did was he went to the front of the bag, so he gave himself the best chance to get there. But boy, was that close. Jonathan Scope on that turn, I didn't think they were going to have enough time with Desmond's speed and the fact that Flaherty had to move to his right to get things started. It's going to take some time. But Jonathan Scope jumped on that throw to first.
Yeah, Scope has a great arm. In
Yes.
fact, Flaherty, if you watch Flaherty, there was just a mini beat for him to unload that to start it.
Yep.
But Scope has such a great arm. He made that play in the middle.
He did. And I'll tell you what, that shot right there, the ball in the back of the glove, and Desmond's foot was just coming down. This may not go well for the Rays.
So this play under review. They're going to complete the double play. So a 6-4-3 double play. The call overturned, and we'll go to the second inning with no score. For a moment. Emily, how are you?
I'm well, Dwayne. Thanks for asking. All right, so tonight is Web Wednesday. We want everyone to submit their questions using the hashtag AskRays or hashtag Web Wednesday. You can go to sunsportsrays@gmail.com or head over to Twitter or Instagram, sunsportsrays. We're taking as many questions as we can. Dwayne, the first question we have is from Christopher Martinez, BA. Sorry. Will Odorizzi have a breakout year this year?
Well, based on that first inning, you would certainly think so. He has popped up Adam Jones, and he's had a lot of trouble with Jones. But the one thing, and I know you're right there on this too, BA, he is stronger this year to begin the year than he was last season.
Every time you go through a major league season, you learn some things. You learn some things about the opposition. You learn some things about yourself. And I think what Jake Odorizzi saw was, listen, a full major league season. 6 months, not 5 like in the minor leagues. So there's that extra month, and then you're hoping to pitch, in October. So he wanted to put some size on to be stronger, to last longer, not only for the season, but I think even from game to game. Last year he had 31 starts, but he averaged just over 5 1/3 innings per start. I know that Jake wants to start getting deeper into games. So he, in his mind, is saying, okay, I want to pitch deeper into every game, and I want to be stronger for 6 months. I need a little padding.
Yep. And it makes perfect sense. And he's come out here throwing the ball well. 1-2-3 first. And ahead of Davis and dropped that change on him. Strikeout number 3. Well, let's take a look at last year, and what the numbers tell us is exactly what you were talking about.
Right there, August and September down the stretch. A little bit different there after he was cruising in the middle part of the season. And so there's that strength factor to be able to finish a season strong. And like I said, you're hoping to pitch a month after that. The other thing that I like is, and we talked about it in the open, is his pitch pattern. The way that he sets up and complements all of his pitches between the elevated fastball, the split changeup, the curveball that's got good depth to it. All of these pitches work together very, very well and set him up to be able to have consistent success.
You have to defend the entire strike zone and more with him out there if you're a hitter. High and low.
Yeah. That's it. And they just play off of each other. I'm going to come up with the fastball, and then I'm going to drop a curve off of that. come up with the fastball, and then here comes the split change. And oh, by the way, I've got a repeatable delivery, so I can be consistent mechanically to get the ball where it needs to be.
Machado fouls it the other way, out of play. Holding the count at 1-2. Well, after the first 2 games of this series, and last night, the Rays really needed their starting pitcher to come out and establish here early that he's got good stuff and is in command. And so far, we've seen nothing but those kinds of signs from Odorizzi. What you're saying, as you look at these hitters up here, it's hard to zone him down because he's going to be all over the place with an idea. Just missed there. And it's 2-2.
You know, that's the other thing that he'll do every now and then. That little cutter at 89 miles an hour, and this is awfully close. Awfully close. And what he's doing, Dwayne, is he's working that entire strike zone up, down, in, and out. But he's doing it aggressively and with enough strikes that he has these hitters on their heels right now. Just not comfortable because he's given them a lot to think about.
Chopper charged by Cabrera. 1, 2, 3 go the Orioles. 6 up, 6 down against Odorizzi, including 3 strikeouts along the way. No score through an inning and a half. Well, the Rays pushed Miguel Gonzalez to 32 pitches in that first inning. It came up empty on that close play on the backside of the double play to end it. Here's Kevin Kiermaier beginning the bottom of the second. Davis will toss it to Gonzalez. 1 pitch, 1 out this time around.
Second baseman, number 11, Logan Forsythe.
Brings up Logan Forsythe. Forsythe, part of the Rays' attempted comeback last night. But he had that 11 pitch at bat in the 4th inning before unloading his first home run of the year, a 2-run shot.
Let's put together some quality at bats here in the early going this season.
Takes an opening fastball for strike 1.
Get off to such a slow start last year. Really frustrating for Logan. Obviously trying to not have that happen again. And very important for the Rays offense. You know, we've talked about first couple of games how much playing time you're going to see him in the lineup an awful lot, righties and lefties. He's going to get a chance to get comfortable and be productive.
Swung the bat pretty well this spring, including 3 home runs. Flaherty, the shortstop, handles this one. And his home runs last year, he had 6. Pulled all of them. He had 2 of those home runs in the spring to the opposite field. We saw him battling, put together a great at bat last night before he hit the home run to left. Well, here's Alan Dykstra, who's making his major league debut. Spent last year at AAA Las Vegas and had 16 home runs there. With James Loney on the DL, Dykstra gets the start near the line in left, and it's going to be foul as it slices beyond the bullpen mound, bounding out of play.
Well, Alan Dykstra is a big man, 6'5". And you can see up at the plate the high hands. He wants to get them started, drop the barrel of that bat, and drive the baseball. The 16 home runs last year in AAA. The year before that in AA, he hit 21, driving in 82.
So 1-1 count out of Wake Forest. He grew up in San Diego. So went across the country to go to college. Now a ball, 2 strikes. Spent time in the minor league system of the New York Mets and the Padres. 2-2.
You never know when that opportunity is going to come knocking.
Count holding at 2-2. Rays signed him as a minor league free agent last November. And he's out on strikes. It's a 1-2-3 inning this time for Gonzalez. On to the 3rd, no score. Take a look at the T-Mobile game changer. Last season, the breakout home and away. You can see a significant difference there for Jake. 2.62 at home and 6.32 that ERA on the road.
I mean, night and day. Night and day. Glad we're here.
Yeah, get that good home start under your belt and then improve on the road record. One strike here to Ryan Flaherty. Shows the bunt again with that shift on just one man. Longoria on the left side. So that bunting strategy has him down 0-2.
Well, especially because if you're Ryan Flaherty, well, you may pull the ball on the ground to the right side more often than not. You're not a big power guy. So if they're going to hand you a bunt base hit, why wouldn't you try and take it?
Upstairs with a fastball.
You get a guy up there like David Ortiz that wants to bunt one, take a single. Okay, because I'm worried about you hitting the home run. Ryan Flaherty, not as much.
Flaherty, a handy man to have around. We've already seen that in this series. Balls, 2 strikes.
How about the way he's handling the bat right now? Falling down 2 strikes, and Ryan Flaherty really choking up for a little bit more bat control.
And he's out on strikes. The fastball got on him in a hurry. That's strikeout number 4 for Odorizzi.
Well, sometimes the fastball up sets up the changeup down. This was the reversal. Change up down, and all of a sudden you change the eye level with that elevated heater out over the plate, something that Jake Odorizzi is very proficient at. Picks up another strikeout there.
Yeah, that's a thing about Odorizzi. He's not afraid to pitch up in the zone. He's going to pitch up. Lavarnway fouls the first pitch. Strike 1. But as we pointed out, pretty much zeroed in on it. He's all over that zone, though, and gives the hitters a lot to think about. Lavarnway takes it the other way, and Souza has it go over his glove. Off the wall, extra bases for the Baltimore catcher. An opposite field double. And I'm not sure that Souza Jr. got a split-second read on that ball either.
Now, a cutter, Lavarnway puts a good swing on it, but I thought off the bat, same as you, Dwayne, that he was going to be able to run this down. You could see him not so much drifting, but kind of chopping steps out there, trying to catch up to that ball, and he ends up just a few inches short.
So Lavarnway is in scoring position, and here's Jonathan Scope. Scope is a big strikeout guy, but he has pop in that bat. 16 home runs last year, and we've already seen his arm. A 1-1 count. It's a ball and 2 strikes. One out double. Two balls, 2 strikes. contact. Fouls that one. Scope out of Curacao. Been with the Orioles organization since 2009. Last year emerged as their everyday second baseman. Oh! Pitch riding in on him, and it hits him on the arm, up around the elbow. So the 8 and 9 hitters reach on a double and a hit batter.
And this got him good too, up and in. You can see him trying to get out of the way, and right on the outside of that left elbow. Nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's a direct hit to the elbow. And the Orioles will check him over. No cushion there.
No, not at all. And you could see him flexing that left hand. You know, you get hit in the elbow and all of a sudden that hand goes numb. Trying to get some feeling back into that. That's the one nice thing about having multiple Tommy John surgeries. I have no feeling in my left elbow anymore. I wouldn't have even known that ball hit me.
They have to remind you, take your base.
Like, I'm fine. I felt pressure, so a little pressure, but not so much pain.
Well, now we go to the top of the order. Alejandro Diaz. Well, there's a lot of ways you could go with that comment. Feeling pressure, but no pain. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. A ball, no strikes, the count to Diaz. Next pitch disappeared on Diaz.
Well, it's one thing to be able to go to that pitch when you're ahead in the count. Entirely different when the hitter's up 1-0. There's the grip. Great shot of the grip. Look at the action. Even better.
You know, we talked about covering the zone on him up and down, but you've got a pitcher out there that can make the ball go two different directions as well. You know, that ball break to either side of the plate depending on the pitch you've selected.
We'll see sometimes that split changeup, like the one to Diaz that he just threw, straight down. Sometimes it has a little fade to it.
Into right field. Here's Souza making the catch. Two gone. So Diaz lines out to right. Souza got to the general area and then found that ball, made the catch.
Well, he's being tested out there. That is for sure. Getting all types of plays, all different angles.
So 2 outs now with men at first and second, and here's Stephen Pierce. Pitch is down. Tonight's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. And why wouldn't he like to play against the Rays? He's done more against this team by far than any other team he has played against. 8 home runs now against the Rays. 1-1.
All 8 of those home runs have come since the beginning of 2013. And break it down a little further. Look at those numbers. The last 11 games here.
Yeah, 9 RBIs and 5 home runs here.
Not exactly a hitter's ballpark. And the staff that he's been facing, not exactly an easy staff to hit off of.
He's averaging a home run every 11 and a half at bats against the Rays. Now 1-2. Against all the other teams, he's averaging a home run every 31 at-bats. Against the Rays, a little over every 11 at-bats. One would think eventually the odds would be in the Rays' favor. Way up. 2-2. Travis Snyder on deck. And a cut and a miss. He's out on strikes. Rivera puts the tag on him. So they get Pierce. And the Orioles lead 2. We'll go to the home half of the third, scoreless.
We're asking everyone to join in on the conversation on Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, Sun Sports Rays. We want to know what you want to ask Dwayne and BA up there in the booth. This question comes from John Paul. What's the biggest positive in Rivera's game compared to past Rays catchers? I know we've talked a lot about Jake Odorizzi, but let's talk about Rivera for a little bit.
Well, where do you start?
I was going to say everything.
You know, the Rays combined last year out of their catchers got a grand total of 22 runs scored out of the catching spot. Now that's a combination of injury and age and different things there. And so while offense is not the primary duty of this catcher or any catcher really, on a team like the Rays and finished last in the league in runs scored last year, they'll take offense from any quarter they can get it. And you figure they're going to get a significant amount of offense compared to last year with their catching this year. So it starts there. You have to address it. On the other side, the work behind the plate. I think the pitchers already love what Rivera does. Caught looking here.
Well, he's taken such an interest in the pitcher's well-being. What does the pitcher like to do? How does he like to throw? Miguel Gonzalez making a nice pitch right there, but Rene Rivera has really taken ownership of that ever since he came over to the Rays, meeting with each pitcher and just finding out their strengths, weaknesses, what they like to do, how they like to do it, and then incorporating that each and every game you're going to find with what is going well for that particular pitcher. And he's been around the game enough to understand how to call a game, how to work with the staff, and oh, by the way, is a threat offensively.
And we saw what he can do when he picked off Adam Jones here in the game Monday. Picked him off first base. Little number, third base side off the bat of DeJesus. Throw to first is not in time. Just a little soft contact with that soft changeup. And DeJesus has a base hit.
Miguel Gonzalez didn't know quite what to do. A swinging bunt here by David DeJesus. Do I go for it? Do I let it go? He ends up reaching down and picking that ball up once he realized it was not going to slide off that ledge. You know, sometimes you catch a ball spinning funny, but as soon as it leaves the grassy area or the field turf area, it may roll foul. That one did not. A base hit.
Steven Souza Jr. Souza singled his first time. Looks a strike. One and one. Well, the Rays had an opportunity in the first, had the bases loaded with one out. Desmond Jennings hit into the double play. You see that 32 pitch count in the first, but only 10 in the second inning for Gonzalez. Two and one.
Boy, how in the world did that pitch miss Souza? That just took off on Gonzalez, and watches just track right in and behind.
DeJesus is the base runner with an infield hit.
We talked early in the game that the Rays, with this combination of Gonzalez and Lavarnway, may look to be aggressive on the base paths, and obviously the Orioles feel the same way.
Gonzalez had one pickoff last year. The opposition successful 12 out of 14 stolen base attempts with him on the mound. 3-1 to count to Souza. As Drupal Cabrera is on deck. Runner goes, but that's ball four. It's the second walk given up by Gonzalez.
The shortstop has Drupal Cabrera.
So a couple runners on here from the top of the order again. Cabrera, who had a base hit his first time. He's now 3 for 6 in his career with a home run off Miguel Gonzalez. Popper on the right side. Infield fly, and Scope handles the formality. That's the second out. It's going to be up to Evan Longoria.
Third baseman, Evan Longoria.
Gonzalez walked Longoria to fill the bases in the first.
Evan has seen really everything that Miguel Gonzalez has to offer here tonight. I figured he would be dialed in here in at bat number 2.
7 of 24 in his career against Gonzalez, including 1 home run. Gonzalez making his 12th career start against the Rays. He's 4-3 in his career against them with a .403 earned run average.
And part of the reason that he was tapped for this start is the work that he's done here at Tropicana Field. 5 career starts coming into this one. 3-1 with an ERA of 2.64 at Tropicana Field compared to 1-2 with a 5.5 at Camden Yards against the Rays.
And that sweeps and catches the corner. Down in the count. Gonzalez can get creative. There's his split.
Even in the count changeup, you can see not a lot of depth to that, but it was sold very well with good arm action.
And cut to miss. He strikes him out with a fastball. The Rays lead 2. On to the 4th, scoreless.
In this series finale, Alan Dykstra, newest member of the Rays, as James Loney goes on the disabled list for the first time in his career. Here are Dykstra's thoughts about joining the big league team.
It's definitely a very special day. I'm very blessed to be here. With my family's support and my friends the whole time. It's been a long journey, and finally all the hard work and faith's paid off. Definitely. I did sign here as a minor league free agent for this opportunity. I was thinking it might be the greatest chance to make it to the big leagues, and I didn't think it would happen before actually the season started in AAA, but it's definitely exciting, and I'm happy to be here again.
Kind of an interesting day for Dykstra this morning, guys. Jared Sandberg, the new manager with the Durham Bulls, told all the team before they went on the road trip he wanted to meet with them individually. It was just a ruse so he could talk to Dykstra one-on-one, and said, why did you sign with the Rays in the offseason? He said to get an opportunity to play to the big leagues. And Jared Sandberg said, well, it's your turn. And that was the first time Jared had a chance to tell somebody they were going up. Back to you.
With a high fly ball the opposite way off the bat of Snyder, and to the track, Jennings takes care of that.
That's really cool, isn't it? That's a cool story, man.
Yeah, and as a manager in the minor leagues, that's one of the best meetings you can have with a player let him know that he's headed to the big club.
Now, all those years that you put in the minor leagues trying to reach the pinnacle, which is Major League Baseball, and here it is. Good for him.
Now it's Adam Jones. How about Jared Sandberg? You know, there's a former Ray dating back to the Devil Ray days. And he's climbing that ladder as well through the Rays system. Now managing at AAA. High foul out of play. Charlie Montoyo, who was so great down there all those years. Actually, not only at Durham, but Charlie was a winner before he got to AAA managing. And now all of that paying off. He's the third base coach, and that opened the spot at AAA for Jared Sandberg, who had done a great job. So he moves right up as well. That's a strike to Jones. 0-2. One ball, 2 strikes. Odorizzi, and we mentioned that he's a little bigger, a little stronger, it would appear, this year. His fastball last year averaged just a little over 90 miles per hour, 90.3, and so far tonight he's been up around 92 on average with his fastball. Jones lines this one, and here's the big challenge for him in this Orioles lineup based on last year. Jones went 8 for 14 against Jake with a home run. Odorizzi got him on a little pop to second in the second inning, and it's 2-2 with him here in the fourth. Down to third for Longoria. Jones 0 for 2 in the second out here in the fourth.
Well, and Jake Odorizzi, very businesslike here tonight. He's using all of his pitches. We've seen the curveball, we've seen him cut it, saw a slider or two, the fastball, obviously the changeup.
First baseman.
And like we continue to highlight, he's using the entire strike zone with all of his pitches. A real good idea of what he wants to do.
There's Davis, a strike to him. Yeah, you're right. That whole demeanor out there has been very businesslike from his first pitch of the night, which was a strike to Diaz. Went on to strike him out swinging. 1-1.
Well, you can tell too, you know, the way that he's carrying himself, how quickly he's working. You know, with nobody on base, his tempo's been pretty good. Getting the ball, getting back up on the mound.
Well, he retired the first 7 he faced, and Lavarnway hit that double. Scope was hit by a pitch, and Odorizzi then got Diaz and Pierce. And ended the third. 2 outs to start the fourth. Base is empty as he faces Chris Davis. 1-2 the count. Big shift on for Davis. It's Manny Machado on deck. And a cut to miss. Well, he went changeup on 2-2 and picks up another strikeout. Bottom of the fourth coming. No score. Minnesota. Let's go places by Bank United. Bank United offers a variety of checking, savings, money market accounts. Visit any Tampa location to open your account today. And by Checkers, get Checkers Authentic Philly cheesesteak or try the new meatball sub. Pick yours, 2 for $5. Desmond Jennings leads it off and fouls the first pitch. Bottom of the 4th inning is underway. Odorizzi against Miguel Gonzalez. Odorizzi through 4 has given up a hit, no runs, 6 strikeouts. Gonzalez through the front 3, no runs on 3 hits. Rays came close to a run in the first. Desmond Jennings up there and 1 out in the first with the bases loaded. Desmond hit a ground ball to short. And a quick turn by Scope and a strong throw just did get Jennings, who was initially called safe over there. On the challenge, the Orioles prevail. The call overturned. So that run came off the board. That's been as close as we've seen tonight. And Jennings is out on strikes. Strikeout number 4 for Gonzalez. Well, with this exciting season of Rays baseball underway, purchase your 2015 ticket plan today and get the best seat locations. Choose from a variety of plans and don't miss a minute of fun with Rays baseball. For ticket plan information, visit raysbaseball.com or call 888-FAN-RAYS. Kevin Kiermaier looks at a strike on the inner part of the plate, an opening fastball. It's 1-1. Thirty-year-old right-hander Miguel Gonzalez. He'll be 31 near the end of May. Ground ball past Davis. Scope scoops, and the throw to Gonzalez covering is going to be in time to get Kiermaier.
And I mean just in time. Chris Davis over at first base tonight with the dive. It's going to go off of him. Just glancing below to Scope, and then the race to the bag, and Gonzalez able to just get there ahead of Kevin Kiermaier.
Kiermaier still looking for his first base hit. He has 3 extra base hits, no single yet. Now Logan Forsythe in the box. Ground ball backhanded behind the bag at third. Throw is in time, and now the Rays want to take a look at this.
Yeah, and I like this idea. Kevin Cash immediately popped out of that dugout, heading out there to talk to Mike Estabrook, and he may have a pretty good beef here. Thought that Logan in real time may have gotten there. Heck of a play by Machado to get to it, and now he's got to show off that arm, which he does. Yeah, Forsythe looks like he may have gotten there, or did that foot end up short? That's the only thing. Was the foot on the bag? Because that's what you're going to be looking at, right? And it's blocked off. The problem is this call has already gone against the Rays, so there has to be enough evidence to overturn it. I'm going to say they're going to say stands, because you can't tell definitively that that toe was on the front edge of that bag.
So we'll see. I'll tell you. And now you can talk about the logic of that and whether you think the toe hit that end of the bag or not. But I think you might have a point, because it does have to be definitive. And that's clear and convincing.
Right. And so it certainly looks like it, but do we know that the toe was on there? That's going to be the call. And like I said, The bad thing for the Rays right here is he's already been called out. He's certainly there in time, but is the foot short of the bag? It's just so hard to tell.
Because he's got, well, even, you know, if you move that forward to the point where the ball is not a foot or two out of the mitt and take it all the way even to the front of the mitt, by that point there may be an indication that his foot is on the bag.
Almost tripping over first base.
So if they look at it that way, the Rays have a chance.
I would agree.
Well, he's out. So the Rays challenge. Well, the Rays not happy with the outcome of that. But it is what it is. Call stands. And we're going to move into the 5th inning. Rays and the Orioles are scoreless here at Tropicana Field. Presented by your local Tampa Bay area Mazda dealers. We're moving into the 5th at Tropicana Field. Manny Machado goes after the first pitch and hits a towering fly ball to center. But a lot of room for Kiermaier, who puts it away. One pitch and one out here in the 5th. Let's check in with Emily Austin once again.
Thanks, Dwayne. I know we've talked a lot about how much change has been seen on this new Rays team. So one of our viewers, Adam, wants to know which new Ray will have the biggest impact this season.
Well, those are always difficult questions to answer and somewhat loaded at times. But I'll tell you, that young man right there, Steven Souza Jr., if he fulfills his potential, he could have the greatest impact, I think, on this team.
He could, but you know, that's a tough question. I mean, think about it. He's going to play right field, and he's going to hit at the top of the order. This man, as Asdrubal Cabrera, going to play shortstop, pretty important position. He's going to hit ahead of Longoria in the lineup, switch hitter. And then the man who just received that pitch, Rene Rivera, is for the most part going to be your everyday catcher. He's going to be involved in everything, all the game plans with these pitchers. He's going to be, leaned on to provide some offense from the catching position. So I'm going to. That is a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, you can't win however you pick it.
No,
I mean, you make.
And you can't go wrong either.
Cogent arguments about a guy, a catcher. How valuable is a good, solid catcher? Because he's got his hands on every pitch.
And just look at the supply and demand. Everybody If you don't have it's like a quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
You've got a handful of elite quarterbacks, handful of elite catchers, and then it's a scramble to try to find somebody else.
And something as basic as this. Watch him receive this pitch.
Froze.
Yeah.
Frozen.
That's great. Right there on the corner. It's there. He does it in a firm way, yet it's a soft reception.
Yes.
Now, what a great combination.
Yeah, because that ball, that's that split changeup that's moving a little bit arm side run. And if he catches that and allows the momentum of that pitch to take the glove off the plate, may not get that call.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
Well, we danced around that one. Lavardway down in the count 0-2, and I think you're right at shortstop too. There's a guy. Well, I think they knew going in that if he wound up playing shortstop, he's going to make all the plays. People talked about maybe a little diminished range, but he's still only 29 years old. It's not as if he's in his mid-30s and you can't let him play short. He can play shortstop. No question about that.
And guess what? Maybe a little something to prove, too, because he's been a shortstop his entire career. This is his 9th season in the big leagues. Last year, he ended the season with the Nationals playing second.
Yeah.
And so you don't think there's a little bit of pride inside going, wait a minute, I'll do this, but I can still play shortstop.
Yeah. And I think he handled the spring very well. So, look, I'll play wherever you want, but I really want to play shortstop. I'd prefer that. Good. He's honest. Of course he does. That's what he's been.
Right.
I mean, any competitors, I go, oh, yeah, I don't want to. That's okay. Wherever. No, he wants to play shortstop.
Right.
Well, good for him. And he'll do a good job there. I'll tell you this. Without question, he's an upgrade right now in every way over last year. Fly ball into left. Jennings will go back to the wall and make the catch to retire the side. We're going to head into the bottom of the 5th. No score. Tropicana Field, where we have a scoreless game moving into the home half of the 5th. And the game tonight and all season long, Tires Plus donates $100 to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every Tampa Bay Rays home run televised on Sun Sports. Alan Dykstra is going to lead it off here in the bottom of the 5th. The Orioles put the shift on with a strong left-handed hitter. He looks at a breaking ball, takes it for a strike. Dykstra was drafted the year the Rays went to the World Series in 2008. Drafted by the Padres. That was his hometown team. He was a first-round pick. Grew up Padre fan. In fact, his family had season tickets there for years. So that was, in its own way, a dream come true for him. Never made it to the big leagues with them, nor the Mets. And you heard him earlier signing with the Rays, thinking there was a chance that at some point during the year he could make it to the big leagues, and I think it came a little earlier than he thought due to the injury to James Loney. A 2-2 count. Full count. He has had some hip issues that at times have been an issue for him and have prevented his steady progress. He's on base here, drawing the walk. Well, the Rays get a base runner.
Yeah, and that was a nice job. He fell down in the count early on and able to take some pitches, work a base runner, put Miguel Gonzalez in the stretch. Becomes a little bit more vulnerable there.
Well, here is Rene Rivera. Ground ball over the mound. Backhanded by Scope, out at second and out at first. Nicely done by the Baltimore infield. They had the time to do it, and they turned in a nice play.
Yeah, and that's what they needed here. This ball off the end of the bat. But Scope able to get to it on the shortstop side of second base. Flip to Flaherty, and Flaherty over to Davis to complete the double play. Well done.
Back around to the top side of the order. David DeJesus. A swinging bunt for a base hit his last time. Takes the fastball off the plate end. Ball, one strike. What we've seen out of Miguel Gonzalez is pretty standard for him. He's not afraid to compete. You know, he might not always have the greatest depth on a split, but he's not afraid to throw it in any situation. So you know you're gonna have a guy who's gonna come after you, and at times try to keep you off balance. 2-2.
Oh, he pitches like a guy who has a lot better stuff than he does. You know, just a lot of guts. You know, fastball 92. We've seen a couple at 93, but low 90s. But he'll throw everything up at you and just continue to attack.
Davis takes this one with the toss to Gonzalez. We're through 5, on to the 6th with no score. summary of pitching duel so far. Jake Odorizzi with 7 strikeouts through 5 innings. He started this game by getting Diaz and getting Snyder in the first, and has had that great split going. And Miguel Gonzalez scoreless on just 3 hits through 5. Found himself in trouble in the first, but got out of that and has set down the Rays since. So we go to the 6th. Jonathan Scope takes a strike. Scope hit on the left elbow his first time up there.
There's going to be a couple of times in each game as a starting pitcher that you're going to find yourself in a position where make a pitch, limit damage, miss a pitch, team's going to score a couple of runs off of you.
It's Forsythe in from second base, and Scope is out of there. 1 away. They bring the flock out to Family Fun Day when the Rays take on the Yankees. That'll be Sunday, April 19th. Kids 14 and under receive an Evan Longoria rubber ducky while supplies last. For tickets, call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com.
After this pitch, Dwayne, I am going to finish my thought. In between pop-ups and promos.
Please continue.
Well, no, and so talking about the night of these 2 starting pitchers, think about Miguel Gonzalez in that first inning with the bases loaded. He's able to make a pitch, get a double play ball. And then in the 3rd inning with 2 runners aboard, 1 out, and he's going to face the 3 and 4 hole hitters for the Rays. He gets a pop-up and then a strikeout. So he has come through where he hasn't been as sharp as we've seen him before. He's made big pitches in the couple of spots that he was in some trouble. Jake Odorizzi has just looked fantastic all night.
The strike called. It's 1-2. Jake has given the Rays exactly the kind of outing they needed after the first 2 games of this season resulted in losses. Diaz, did he go? No, on the appeal. The count is 2-2.
Well, right now we're sitting at Jake Odorizzi, and his average outing last year was just over 5 1/3 innings. Well, he's got 5 1/3 logged right now and looking to get more.
You know, the good thing, through 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, 74 pitches. So a high strikeout total through 5, good pitch count going. A couple of ground ball outs and 7 fly balls. That's just keeping in a consistent approach to what we've seen in the past.
He by no means is ever going to be known as a ground ball pitcher. Fly ball pitcher, but will rack up a lot of strikeouts. He was 9th in the American League last year in Major League Baseball in strikeouts per 9 innings. 9.32 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, and you're right about the double play too. He threw 1 ground ball double play, and that was, I think, David Ortiz.
That it was.
Full count now. Into right for a base hit, charged by Souza. Piazza is aboard.
Number 28, Steve Pierce.
So the Orioles pick up their 2nd hit. It's their 3rd hit in just under the last 13 innings since Pierce homered in the 2nd inning of last night's game.
We get an awful lot of love to the Rays offense for the quality at bats they put together and get back into that game yesterday. But what about pitching staff?
Yep.
What about Nathan Karns settling down and the bullpen holding them 7 scoreless to allow that comeback?
Ground ball, got a double play coming. 6-4-3. Cabrera, Forsythe to Dykstra, even with the shift. Bottom of inning 6 coming. No score. Baseball on Sun Sports, brought to you by Grow Financial. Don't go through life. Grow through life with Grow Financial Federal Credit Union. By your Tampa Bay area Mazda dealers. It takes conviction, creativity, and courage to build cars worth driving. This is the Mazda way. And by Sea-Doo. Sea-Doo Spark is the most affordable watercraft on the water, starting at only $49.99 or as low as $79 per month. Steven Souza Jr. leads off and shoots it just outside the third base bag. Strike one. Souza has been on twice tonight with a single and a walk. Pitch disappeared on him. Breaking away that slider.
The bat was not long enough. He tried to lengthen that swing, but that slider just kept sweeping away.
And he did go. He's out on strikes. First out in the sixth.
Number 13,
Just not able to hold up on the changeup.
Here's Asdrubal Cabrera. One strike the count. Cabrera had a base hit against the shift, right through the shift in the first inning. There's a nice curveball. 0-2. This will be handled by Davis unassisted. 2 outs in the sixth.
You know, how many times do you see a guy get into trouble early like Miguel Gonzalez did? You go back to that first inning, and it took a review to overturn and get a double play, so he gets out of that inning unscathed. Had the 32 pitches, and now look, 2 outs into the sixth, and he's sitting at 84 and still hasn't given up a run. He's figured it out, and that's what you're always afraid of when you have a guy on the ropes early and you don't cash in.
Evan Longoria, who has walked and struck out. Gonzalez got him with a fastball in, swinging in the third.
That was the only other time they had an opportunity. 2 runners on first and second with 1 out. Cabrera, Longoria coming up, and he was able to pitch out of that jam too.
Evan ahead in the count, 2-0. It's going to be on the corner. 2-1. And now back even for Gonzalez, 2-2. Over the sixth. Rays left 2 men in the first inning, 2 men in the third. Baltimore left 2 on in their third. Right field sides. It's going to slice and carry out of play.
Miguel Gonzalez come back in with the fastball. He was able to strike him out in his last at bat with that pitch that you referenced, Dwayne. And the last 3 have been the slider away, the fastball in, now another off-speed pitch away. Just continuing to work back and forth against Evan, and they are coming in.
Evan fouls that fastball. And the count is full. The off-speed pitch thrown into the dirt. And ball 4. So he walked a man in the first. One in the third, one in the fifth, and now a 2-out walk in the 6th. Get in on the action with exclusive on-field seating in the Papa John's bullpen box. Host your group of 50 to 85 in this private party area and leave long-lasting memories. To reserve the Papa John's bullpen box, call group sales at 888-FAN-RAYS. Email group sale at raysbaseball.com or visit raysbaseball.com. Limited dates remain. Well, a 2-out walk. Desmond Jennings going to be the hitter, and Dave Wallace, the pitching coach, will spend some time with Gonzalez out there. Remember now, it's Jennings who came into this game 6 of 23 off Gonzalez, but 4 of those hits home runs. He's 0 for 2 tonight, grounding into the double play ball in the first that the Orioles challenged. It initially a safe call at first, and they won that challenge. Jennings struck out swinging in the 4th on a slider. One and 0. Gonzalez getting into the mid-90s in pitch count. And he finds the corner with that fastball. Well placed there. 1-1. Two balls and a strike. Kevin Kiermaier is on deck. Brian Mattis, a lefty, is up in the bullpen now for the Orioles. Now 2-1. Go 3-2.
Yikes! That was a 3-1 hanger.
Well, he's done that, earlier in the game. Behind in the count, he's thrown that slider, and it's just hovered.
Yeah. Yes. Well put.
3-2, and that is ball 4. Pushing Longoria up to second. And Buck Showalter's out of the dugout for Baltimore. We're going to have a pitching change with 2 on and 2 out in the 6th. Ladies, gather your friends, make it a girls' night out at the ballpark Friday, April 17th, when the Rays take on the Yankees, and women receive a Rays crossbody bag while supplies last. For tickets, visit RaysBaseball.com or call 888-FAN-RAYS.
How about DJ Kitty getting down right there? You may have missed it.
Yeah, I did. I was busy doing some business over here.
It was lively.
With crossbody bags. Well, here we go with Brandon Guyer pinch hitting against Brian Mattis. And he lines it up the left side, but it's going to be foul. Strike one.
Well, this is one of those moves. Buck Showalter going to his bullpen, and Brian Mattis would come in to face Kevin Kiermaier, who he's held lefties to a 196 average since he primarily went to the bullpen the last 2 seasons, 13 and 14. And, of course, Kevin Cash then counters with Brandon Guyer.
Yeah, Kiermaier had gone 0 for 3 against Mattis, and Guyer 2 for 5 off him with a home run. So Kevin Cash makes this move right away with Mattis, the lefty, in there and being tough against left-handed hitters. This one will get by Lavarnway, and both men move into scoring position. Boy, that potentially could be a very big play in this game.
Well, and now Brian Mattis, you know, that confidence is a little bit shaken if he does get back in the count to go with something down in the zone. Here's a fastball. Lavarnway comes up. It scoots through the 5-hole. Everybody moves up 90 feet, and now 2 runners in scoring position, and the count in Brandon Guyer's favor.
So the wild pitch there on that ball in the dirt. Second and third now for the Rays. Guyer under this one. It's a high popper, and that's going to carry into the stands. 2-2. Thought he might have caught the corner with that one. Curveball, but it was around the plate. Didn't quite get there. 3-2 the count. And there's ball 4, and blocked by Lavarnway. Another curveball. So with 2 outs, the Rays have the bases loaded on 3 walks by Baltimore pitching. And it's going to be Logan Forsythe. Forsythe 2 for 4 with a home run in his career against Mattis. Big 2-out opportunity for the Rays. And the fastball up and away. A ball, no strikes.
The Orioles have opened the door. 2 quick outs here in the 6th, and then 3 walks and a wild pitch.
And that has a piece of the corner. 1-1. Over the screen, foul. 1-2. Both bullpens starting to get busy now. So Garcia for the Orioles. Now Beliveau up for the Rays. Upstairs. It's 2-2. Forsythe had that extended at bat in the 4th inning last night. An 11-pitch at bat, and finally the home run. 2-2 right now. And ball 3. That is going with a curveball. He went 3-2 and walked Geyer on a curveball. Now he's 3-2 with the bases loaded, 2 outs, and Forsythe up there.
And everybody off and running.
And ball 4, and he missed by quite a margin. That forces home the first run of this game. So 4 consecutive walks with 2 outs, and the Rays have a run. The run is charged to Gonzalez.
Well, you don't often see that. 2 quick outs, now 4 straight walks have walked in a run in a scoreless game. And the Rays aren't done.
Nope. Tim Beckham will pinch hit now for Dykstra. So a chance for more. But while you're at it, why not? Beckham takes the pitch for ball 1.
Ryan Mattis, who's been the subject of trade rumors throughout spring training, and actually those rumors have heated up even in the last few days. He's struggling with his command here badly.
And now Beckham is ahead in the count. Dave Wallace trots out of the dugout to the mound.
Trying to find something that'll work, because we've seen Mattis with the fastball, the changeup, and the curveball, and not able to get any of those pitches consistently in the zone for strikes.
Longoria drew a walk. And walks to Jennings. That was it for Gonzalez. Geyer pinch hit against Mattis and walked. Forsythe threw the bases loaded walk. Beckham takes one that catches the edge. 2 balls and a strike, and you see Beckham shaking his head a little bit there.
Usually a guy that's struggling with command is not going to get a borderline pitch, and that may not even have been borderline. A little bit off. Tim Beckham is right.
2-1. Now we go to 2-2.
Tim Beckham had designs on making this a 5-0 game. Boy, big swing, count in your favor. Why not? Cut it loose. Just missed it.
Out of play. Jennings at third base, Geyer at second, Forsythe at first. And a cut and a miss on the changeup. He had Beckham out in front to strike him out. Rays get a run, the only one of the game, and lead 1-0 through 6.
we head into the top of the 7th. They have a 1-0 lead. Jake Odorizzi, 7 strikeouts here tonight as he goes to work in the 7th, and 6 of the 7 have been on that pitch right there, his split changeup. And he really started to use last season. And he has it working here tonight. He's had some like that have some good arm side fade and run, and then some other ones that have that finish straight down. No matter how that ball is moving, it's moving effectively. And Jake Odorizzi, confidence in that pitch. He's used it enough, and he's used it to get 6 of the 7 punchies.
Here we go into the 7th. The first pitch is a strike to Travis Snider. Starts him with a changeup. Rays have made some defensive switches as a result of the pinch hitters. We'll get to those in a moment. That's foul ball back. 0-2 on Snider. Logan Forsythe moves from second base to first. Tim Beckham in the game now at second base, and in the outfield changes there as well. Brandon Guyer is in left. Jennings moves over to play center. Kiermaier lifted for the pinch hitter Guyer. One and two. So the Rays, for the first time this year, have a lead. Kevin Cash looking for his first victory. Beliveau the lefty, Friari the right-hander. Down there in the Rays pen. Snider fouls it back. Snider off to a good start in the first 2 games of this series. A 3-hit day on Monday. And then in last night's game had a base hit to drive in a run on the first, scored a run, and then walked 3 times. Chopper toward the middle. This is Cabrera on the first base side of the bag from short to make the play. 1 gone in the 7th.
Number 10, Adam Jones.
Adam Jones is 0 for 2. Pop to second and a ground ball to third. Strike. Outer part of the plate. High fly ball, not too deep to left. Guyer is there waiting. 2 gone. You know, Odorizzi 2 outs into the 7th inning. And now Kevin Cash comes out with Chris Davis due up. And that's going to be it for Odorizzi. So he gets the first 2 men in the 7th. And boy, Odorizzi pitched himself a great game tonight against the Orioles. And that's quite a turnaround for him against Baltimore. Back with a new pitcher. Red Sox take on the Yankees in the Bronx, followed by a playoff rematch as the Royals battle Mike Trout and the Angels. Coverage begins Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Jake Odorizzi, 6 2/3, 94 pitches tonight, and a great job holding this Baltimore Orioles ball club. Beliveau, the new pitcher. First pitch to Davis is a strike, and there's the line on Odorizzi.
Well, a couple of them. 6 2/3, great. Jake getting into the deep into the 7th. Just 2 hits given up. Didn't hurt himself with the walk to go along with those 7 strikeouts.
Strike around the knees.
You were wondering if Jake was going to get another shot at Chris Davis. He had punched him out in his 2 at-bats that he's faced him here tonight. But that call goes to Jeff Beliveau. Those are his numbers from last year. And he's up 0-2 here.
Just a piece of that one. Well, Odorizzi last year, in any of his starts against the Orioles, did not get through 6 innings. That was 4 starts. He went 0-2 with a .652 against him. A completely different story tonight. He was masterful.
And economical with the pitches. You know, he averaged over 20 pitches an inning against this team last year. He was just spot on.
Another foul ball. Jeff Beliveau out there ahead of Davis. 2 strikes. Garcia stays up in the bullpen, joined by Brock. High fly ball, center field. Desmond Jennings gloves that one. We're in the middle of the 7th inning here, and the Rays lead 1-0.
As we head to the bottom half of the 7th inning, don't forget, coming up tomorrow from Marlins Park, that'll be our Rays Live pregame show, driven by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers after the off day tomorrow. That'll be on Friday night as the Tampa Bay Rays take on the Miami Marlins in the first of 3 games as they kick off interleague play early this year. We'll have our pregame show beginning at 6:30. Preston Estrada will break down big Giancarlo Stanton wearing that face guard this year for the first time with that G in the face mask, and we will also tell you about interleague play as the Rays play the Marlins in the 2nd series of the season. And they also play the Marlins in the penultimate series of the season as they almost start and finish the year with the Marlins. And guys, it's still uncertain as to who's going to start for the Rays on Friday. We already saw Jeff Beliveau get in the game. We already see Kevin Jepsen warming up, and we still have a full complement of arms down here in the bullpen because there are some potential starters down here. Erasmo Ramirez. Also, we have Matt Andriese, and we're not sure who's going to go on Friday. A lot of it depends on how things are handled as this game develops. So we'll find out tomorrow. Back to you.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. You saw Jepsen behind Todd there, loosening in the Rays bullpen right now. Here in the bottom of the 7th inning, Rene Rivera hitting against Jason Garcia. Garcia, a Rule 5 pick from Boston, and he has made this Baltimore staff. Swing and a miss, 2-2. Garcia, 22 years old. Orioles had a couple of Rule 5 pitchers in their camp this spring. Ooh, up and in, look out, full count. And Garcia made the team.
Well, he's got a great arm, and that's a big reason why. A-ball last year, and yet here he is. Mid-90s with the fastball, great stuff.
Popped up down the right side. Davis after it. He makes the catch along the bullpen area. Rivera is the first out in the 7th, so Garcia making his debut here out of the bullpen. Retires Rene Rivera. Long reach by Chris Davis. Technically, the Orioles acquired Garcia from Houston after they had taken him in the Rule 5 draft. 1-0 the count to DeJesus. One and one. Thing that kept him in A-ball from 2010, 11, 12, 13, and 14. A good arm, but at times had difficulty harnessing that. And that walk total was a concern. High fly ball the other way, sending Diaza back a few steps, but he has room. 2 gone. You can see why the Orioles liked his arm. And he's very young.
Yeah, and he showed improved command in spring training. I'm going to tell you what, the minor leagues are full of guys that have great arms and great fastballs, but it ends up coming down to he who harnesses command advances up the ranks. And nobody's done it faster than this guy. A-ball to the big leagues is a Rule 5 pick.
Sousa fouls it back, strike one. Rays got their run in the 6th inning with 2 outs on 4 consecutive walks. 2 from the starter Miguel Gonzalez, and then a couple walks issued by Brian Mattis. The run charged to Gonzalez. It's 1-2. And fastballs in the mid-90s from Garcia. Cabrera on deck. We go to 2-2. Top of the screen, foul. The count is full. Two outs, base is empty. And there's ball four. The Rays pick up a 2-out walk. That's the way the 6th inning started, with a 2-out walk.
Shortstop, number 13,
Asdrubal Cabrera's got a bat. Eight walks given up tonight by Baltimore pitching.
Well, it took 4 in a row with 2 outs in the 6th inning for the Rays to scrape across that run. Uncharacteristic. This club with the 8 walks.
And to first, Sousa's back in. 8 walks allowed by Baltimore pitching. The Rays haven't given up a walk all night. We had only 5 hits total in this game. Rays have 3, Baltimore 2. Ball 1 to Cabrera. The Orioles actually had 2 Rule 5 pitchers in their camp this spring. The other one they picked out of the Mets system, Logan Verritt. And there was talk that both of them might make the team before Texas picked up the other one when the Orioles eventually had a numbers problem. And it was Garcia, the Rule 5 pick, who has made this pitching staff. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, what the Orioles have been able to do. Runner goes, the pitch high, and the throw is in time. And here comes Kevin Cash out of the dugout. He wants to talk this one over with Dana DeMuth. Sousa thought he was in there. And so Cash here in the 7th. Has talked DeMuth into taking another look.
Well, the tag looks like it gets there in time, right on the heel of Steven Sousa. close, but the tag looked to have gotten there in time, and it was well aimed.
So an umpire review of this one.
Once you get to that point after the 7th inning.
So Sousa is out at second base, and we have completed 7 innings with the score 1-0 Rays. Rays lead this game 1-0. Tonight's game summary brought to you by Gold and Diamond Source. The Rays got a great job from Jake Odorizzi tonight. 6 2/3, 7 strikeouts, no walks, and just 2 hits allowed. And the run came on the Logan Forsythe walk with the bases loaded. That's the difference in the game. Kevin Jepson takes over on the mound for the Rays in the 8th. And his opening pitch is a breaking ball in there. It's strike on Manny Machado. Even better with that one.
Yeah.
0-2.
First one in the zone, second one in and then out of the zone. Swing and a miss. Gets the jump.
And he went after that one. 3 breaking balls. Machado turns around and heads right back to the dugout. 8th strikeout for Rays pitching. Let's check in with Emily one more time.
Thanks, Dwayne. I want to thank everybody for joining in on Web Wednesday. We got a lot of great questions on the Sun Sports Gmail account, Twitter, and Instagram. So be sure to get on the computer every Wednesday to be a part of that. The last question of the night. Well, first, I heard there was a little interesting road trip from New York to Boston that you guys were involved in, which brings us to our next question. Doug wants to know, do BA and Dwayne ever carpool to games? Guys?
Once.
We did carpool once.
We did.
Right?
We did. We carpooled from Baltimore to New York.
Yes.
Because I got to drive in New York City rush hour traffic, which if you've never done it, don't.
Yeah. It's fun, isn't it?
Wow. I'm telling you. Yeah, that was something.
We had a couple passengers with us, though.
We did.
And then I don't know how these stories got out about some of those other car trips, but we've had a couple that have been fairly interesting as we endeavor to see America at every opportunity. Just missed inside, 1-2.
I think there was a movie made that was loosely based on some of our car trips.
Yeah. Well, we try to make them interesting. I'm not sure. We lost count one time of how many people were actually in the vehicle. We may have broken interstate transportation laws. Flaherty out on strikes, 2 gone.
We had a car trip where we carpooled and neither one of us drove. In fact, nobody that we knew drove.
Yeah, we're still not sure what his name was. That's the one I think we had more people than the law allows in the vehicle.
We hid one in the trunk.
Yeah. We thought that was perfectly acceptable.
For who it was.
He's no longer with us. He's still alive, just not with us now.
I just heard somebody open an investigation against us.
Oh, 1 strike to count as Lavarnway fouls it back. Lavarnway has a 2-base hit, 1 for 2. Breaking ball. Boy, we've seen some good ones from Jepson here in the 8th. No pitch. The time granted by Paul Nart. A tough spot for a pitcher to be in right there and to cut off the delivery.
That late, absolutely right.
It's 1-2. Jepson pitched the 8th inning in last night's game. At Davis, Machado, and Flaherty. We've retired Machado and Flaherty tonight, now facing Lavarnway. And ahead of him, the ball and 2 strikes. Oh, did that look good? Breaking ball.
The only thing that Paul Nauert could have said is this ball's down, because it's definitely on the plate. Good curveball. Boy, you could have.
Yes, he could have. Count is 2-2. Now 3-2. Breaking ball again. Jonathan Scope on deck. And the fastball in the mid-90s is fouled away.
Kevin Jepson used to these high leverage innings. He's got the stuff to get it done, the demeanor.
He was in 74 games with the Angels last year. And the fastball fouled again. He got Machado on 3 breaking balls. And they've got ahead of Flaherty. Got him with a fastball. And boy, just missed on a couple breaking balls here in this sequence of pitches to Lavarnway. And Lavarnway then fouling off the last two fastballs with a full count. Nothing contest here in the 8th. Another fastball. It's 3 straight fastballs on a 3-2 count.
Yeah, and you know what? This would be the time to go right back to that curveball. You've gotten Lavarnway. Lavarnway had some good takes off that the curveball earlier in the count to get to a full count. Now you've gotten him back into swing mode with 3 straight heaters. Boom. Curveball at the bottom of the zone. Head to the dugout.
The 4th 3-2 pitch. And he did go back to the breaking ball, but he walks him. So the 2-out walk. First walk given up by Rays pitching tonight.
Well, I love the idea. I think that pitch just out of the hand started low, ended low. That ball bounced. He probably wanted it a little closer to the zone than that, but I think the idea there by Jepsen and Rivera was right on.
Here's Jonathan Schoop. Schoop hit by a pitch early in the game. Curveball. He takes it for a strike. And Jepsen has used that to get ahead. And a nice block there. Count is 1-1. Ball wide. That's 2 balls and a strike. 19 pitches for Jepsen here in the 8th. Couple strikeouts to start it, then the walk. 9 of those pitches to Lavarnway, who drew the walk. And no, says Paul Nart. Curveball, and Schoop took it for ball 3.
A little bit of trouble here getting that curveball. Complete control of it. That ball close, very close.
Yeah, these curveballs are tantalizingly close.
We got to credit to Baltimore, Lavarnway and Schoop, the hitters, for some close takes.
That's a strike, a fastball. And the count is full.
Well, thank you, Rene Rivera. That was a nice job of going out there and freezing this pitch.
So the full count will start the runner at first. There he goes. Cut the miss. He got him with a fastball. Schoop out on strikes. A walk and 3 strikeouts in the inning for Jepsen. We'll go into the bottom half of the 8th. The Rays protecting a 1-0 lead and a strikeout of Schoop to end the top of the 8th. 2-1 lead. Don't forget, coming up on Rays Live, the postgame presented by Checkers. Todd Orestes and Doug anchoring the coverage. We'll have the Kevin Cash press conference. Emily Austin will have interviews from the clubhouse. Todd Callis taking copious notes in preparation for the Rays Live postgame. It was all business. Asdrubal Cabrera, who was at the plate when the 7th inning ended on the caught stealing, in here, taking the first pitch for a strike. Brad Brock is the new pitcher. One and one. And you do get a little different look from Brock.
Well, tall, lanky, and he gives you a little bit of that crossfire action. You'll see when he comes set, that landing foot kind of throws across his body with the fastball, sweeps the slider.
And that'll make a 91 or 92 mile per hour fastball look a bit more crisp.
Yeah, well, it's deception.
Yep.
You know, any way that you can create a little bit of deception, your velocity will increase.
You can see Cabrera with that slider, even on the fastball before, not getting really good cuts at him because of that.
You don't pick up the ball as quickly as you do more guys with more traditional deliveries. There's a little bit of funk in the mechanics, and boy, any hundredth of a second that you can buy as far as a hitter picking your pitch up, that's just going to increase how quickly it jumps on it.
Longoria behind in the count. Brad Boxberger, you saw in the bullpen for the Rays. It's 1-1. Brock pitched in the game here on Monday. Third of an inning, gave up a run on a couple hits. He's ahead of Longoria, 1-2.
I'll tell you the other advantage that pitchers like Brock that have a little bit of deception in their mechanics coming out of the bullpen is you don't see him that often. You know,
up the left field line. That's headed toward the corner. Will roll to the 3:15 marker. And Longoria is on his way to second with a double.
Evan Longoria had gone into survival mode there, and Brad Brock left a mistake out over the plate. Evan capitalizes for extra bases. Breaking ball never got to its spot.
Best center fielder, number 8, Desmond Jennings.
Well, the double for Evan Longoria. That gives him 424 extra base hits, and that ties him with Carl Crawford for the club record in extra base hits. And now Desmond Jennings will try to get him home, taking the fastball for a strike on the corner. 1-1. A ball, 2 strikes. Up the right side. Just foul. Just that close. Boy, Jennings has been involved in a couple close plays involving potential runs tonight. That double play that ended the Rays' opportunity to score in the first inning. And now this one.
Well, and a nice job by Desmond making the adjustment on the ball away, letting that ball travel and then just trying to poke that up the right field line just a couple of feet fair. And Brad Brock, we talked about lanky across his body, 6'6", and he's coming across his body and then trying to drive that fastball or slider away from you. Tough to handle.
Jennings continues the at bat. Piece of the fastball foul.
And that was a show fastball in that he was able to fight off. And you got to believe if you're Desmond Jennings, you're selling out for something away. Brad Brock, whether it's the breaking ball or the fastball, going to work the outer half of that plate. And here it is.
And up the middle. Base hit into center. Here comes Longoria. The throw cut off. Safe at the plate and out at second base. Longoria scores on the base hit by Jennings, and the Rays now lead 2-0.
Well, Desmond Jennings thinking right along with us. Fastball in. He's now going to look for something away, and it's a pretty good breaking ball here. Look at that swing. Nice job by Desmond Jennings not to try and do too much. Use the middle of the field. He gets it through there and is able to drive Evan Longoria in, even though he's tagged out there at second. Actually, a nice cutoff by Flaherty to Scope, but that's okay. Another run for the Rays, and manager Kevin Cash awfully happy about that.
Rays lead 2-0. Pitching change coming. Base is empty, 2 outs. Wesley Wright, the new pitcher, and first foot right back to the hill. Wright throws out Brandon Guyer, and the Rays are finished in the 8th. But they do pick up an additional run. On to the 9th we go. 2-0 Rays. leading 2-0 behind the strong start they got tonight for right-hander Jake Odorizzi. 6 2/3 of 2-hit baseball, 7 strikeouts. Evan Longoria involved in the offense, scoring both runs. He walked with 2 outs in the 6th and eventually scored at a 1-out single in the 8th and came home. So the Rays carry this 2-run lead into the 9th inning. Brad Boxberger is the new pitcher. 10 pitches in the game last night when he retired the Orioles in order in the 9th. The last man he faced was Alejandro Diaz last night when he struck him out. He'll be the first hitter he faces here in the 9th inning tonight. And he takes the pitch for a ball. Diaz had a single into right in the 6th. Ball 2, Diaz taking it.
Well, this is a situation where you would figure, especially here with Diaz starting the inning off, he's going to take till he gets a strike from Brad Boxberger. 2-run ball game. They need to put something together.
And there's ball 3. He missed by plenty there.
Yep, and you see the last 2 after the initial pitch was a ball, then Diaz kind of turning around, faking a bunt, just creating some distraction at the plate, trying to coax a walk now.
There's a strike. 3-1. Well, Steven Pearce is due next. And Travis Snyder. Full count. Pop foul. That's headed straight out of play. Right back. Top of Baltimore's order in the 9th. Up the right side. That's going to be a foul ball. Well, Diaz battling Boxberger up here.
No one said it was going to be easy. Brad Boxberger getting the first call for a save opportunity here for the Rays. Coming off of a season and just over 64 innings of work, struck out 104 batters. Absolutely dominant, primarily fastball, changeup, and an awful lot of miles per hour in between.
And a roller left side. This will be tough. Well, they had him shaded to the right side, and by the time Evan got over there, no chance to make a play on Diaz.
That changeup just didn't have enough on it. That ball just never got there, and Diaz just cued it over to the left side. And the Orioles do get their base runner.
Well, here's Steve Pearce. He's 0 for 3 tonight. Pitch inside. The Rays have Beckham on the shortstop side of second. Shifting for Pearce. Foul ball, sharply hit down the third base side. He's got a run in the 6th, another run in the 8th. And stopped by Rivera. Curveball, it's 2-1. It's something that you didn't see a lot from Boxberger last year. It was almost exclusively that fastball and changeup. Against the railing of the dugout.
And that's always a tough call to make. You know, you always want to add to your game year in and year out. But when do you add? How do you add? He was so good last year with the fastball and changeup. You wouldn't think that he would need much more. But you know, you work on something, you have it there. If you do need it, it'll just be interesting to see how the season unfolds, where he picks his spots.
Swing and a miss. That fastball gets Pierce. He came in with a fastball, tied him up.
And lulled him to sleep with some off speed, including that breaking ball. And then 93 right here. He actually didn't even get it to the spot that he wanted, but effective nonetheless. Steve Pierce doesn't know where he was trying to go. He just knows that he came up empty.
So a big strikeout following the infield hit from Diaza. There's a strike to Travis Snyder. Dropped that changeup in there in the zone. Snyder grounded out to Cabrera his last time. Cabrera shaded toward the middle. And he just missed. Boxberger did with the fastball. It's 1-1. You see where Cabrera is. And the last time they got Snyder, he hit the ball up the middle, and Cabrera scooting to his left was right there for him. This one is cued foul toward the on-deck circle. A ball, 2 strikes. Defensive swing there on the fastball. No chance on that one. Mid-90s. And Snyder is out on strikes.
And we talked last night about Brad Boxberger. The fastball changeup combo seemingly has hitters in between all the time. And this is exactly what happens here. Travis Snyder on a 94 miles an hour fastball. He just was not able to pick that up out of the hand. Almost looked like he was sitting changeup, and the 94 just blew right by him.
Here's Adam Jones. Just popped out, grounded out, and a fly ball to left in the 7th. Ball, no strikes.
It's so tough because Boxberger mechanically sound, release point the same on the fastball and the changeup, and the arm speed always good.
And he has Jones out in front with that little breaking ball there again.
As if he needed another weapon. And that was a nice breaking ball there. 77 mile an hour curveball by Boxberger.
Now the fastball. He had Jones uncertain.
And now he can expand that zone. He's up in the count, 1-2, and he's got a hitter at the plate that's almost impossible to walk. He wants to swing the bat. And go ahead and let him do it on the pitch out of the zone.
Oh, strike 3 call. Fastball on the corner engine, and the Rays get their first win of the year. Boxberger strikes out the side after giving up the infield hit. And the Rays win this one 2-0. Rays get their first victory of the year, and Kevin Cash gets his first win as a major league manager. Gets his first win as a manager anywhere. And nicely done for the Rays. Clean game. Great pitching performance by Odorizzi to start. Beliveau, Jepson, and Boxberger finishes it off with that pitch. And here's the reaction of Kevin Cash.
Wants to get used to that feeling.
Tom Foley right there to congratulate him. So the Rays find the win column tonight with this 2-0 victory. They take the final game of the series. Always good to get that first one.
Well, especially here at home before you get ready to head out on the road after an off day tomorrow. And that's exactly what they're able to do.
2-0 the final here at Tropicana Field. Right now, let's go to the field and Todd Callis.
Dwayne, thanks. With Evan Longoria, Longo, this is a new group, a lot of young guys. Pretty important just to get one before you head on the road.
It is. I mean, obviously big day for Kevin, you know, his first win, and I think a lot of us were pulling for that, first of all, you know, and watching Jake out there tonight was pretty impressive too. You know, we needed a guy to go out there and put up a start like he did, and it was pretty cool to see.
See any relief in Kevin's face when he went through the handshake line?
I don't know. I gave him a hug. I'm proud and happy to be a part of his first win.
For you guys, obviously you mentioned Jake Odorizzi from third base. He's a good year last year, but he looked like he was really throwing some good changeups.
Yeah, I mean, his fastball was explosive too, and that's I think one of the things that in the beginning of the year it's great to see the ball coming out so good. I mean, his split finger, whatever changeup whatever he calls it, was pretty lights out too. So he had a great start overall.
Kind of a game last night where you never gave up, down early 6-0, and tonight, even though you didn't have a lot of hits, you guys worked some good at bats, ended up walking around the bases.
Yeah, I mean, we put together good at bats. I mean, offensively, I think we understand, the fans understand that we're not going to stand up there and bang through on home runs, but if we can put together good at bats like we did tonight, it puts the pressure on the defense. It's going to be a long year for them.
All right, Evan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, back to you.
All right, Todd, thank you very much. A nice job by Rays pitching after the first 2 innings of last night's game, and they win this one 2-0. We'll be back in a moment.